I'm always excited about the site, going to the site. I'm always excited, like as excited I was first visit 22 years back as a fresh graduate. I feel same fascination, same excitement before going to the site. And stepping to the site is actually a strange thing. It will tell you the story of the site. It will tell you the context, the surrounding, the climate, each and every aspect of the site, and you can learn from, you can listen to the site, and you fall in love with the site, and site also fall in love with you. Then the creation starts coming out. Becoming an architect is a very interesting issue for me, because I never wanted to be an architect. I always wanted to be a painter. But my parent, particularly my dad, I mean my father, was very much against of becoming a painter. And one of my cousins at the time came to me and told me that there's a subject which is too much close to artwork. You can continue your painting journey. If you go into the Department of Architecture, you can study architecture. And interestingly, what happened, this department at the time in Bangladesh belongs to the University of Engineering and Technology. So I decided to go for it without having not much of knowledge about architecture. But I thought my dad would be happy that it's an engineering university. So he thought that I'm gonna be an engineer, but I knew that I have nothing to do with engineering. I had something to do with my painting in the name of architecture. So sometimes I used to say that I'm an architect by chance and a painter by conviction. I started my projects, architectural projects in a painterly manner. But you know, in a school, they used to think about the functionality of a project, the other aspects of the project, the measurements of a space and things like that. And I used to miss those things basically in the class. And as usual, I was getting poor marks and sometimes the fail grades even. And one of my teachers, you know, once in the second year, he told me that I can't grade you even because you are below the failing grade. I did one project, I remember. It's called Brick Picture Library and Gallery project. You see, it looks like a watercolor. Architecture becomes watercolor. I try to develop the marriage between architecture and painting, and I think now I feel good. I feel good. I don't have any sort of contradiction with me that whether I'm an architect or an artist. I continue my journey. What I feel like to do, I just do. Dhaka is a very, very old city, like thousands of years old city, and it grew up just beside the water. Basically, the name of the river is Buriganga. It means the mighty Ganges, this old Ganges river. But as a city, it became very prominent in the Great Mughals period. Like 1605, it became the capital city of the eastern part of the provinces during the Mughal time. So at the time, it became one of the world's most important city, and water was its lifeline basically. Dhaka is basically based on rivers, and you will be surprised to know that there are more than 50 major river channels coming from Himalayas through Bangladesh to the Bay of Bengal. So you know, the Bangladesh is the largest delta on earth, and all about, you know, delta is about water. The vegetation grows beautifully. We have water a lot basically. Every aspect of Bangladesh is basically based on water. Many people talking about urban planning because our cities are really a mess. Traffic congestion, growth of population, lack of jobs even in the villages. So all the, you know, pressure coming onto the cities. So cities are becoming very cramped. There are slums are also. It's a huge cry now in Bangladesh. The landscape of Dhaka has changed a lot, and it's not very positive. It's not very positive. We are losing our greens, and as a city, I think we need to have at least 30% green as your breathing purpose, and the open fields like your lungs to breathe. That we have lost a lot. I think we have not more than maybe hardly less than 10% green we have nowadays, which is very, very miserable, which is very poor, which is very shocking for us. But fortunately, we realized, the people of the country realized that highly dense country, a city needs definitely green for sustainability. For example, nowadays government is trying hard, the activists are trying hard, and architects are becoming activists nowadays to protect the environment. So we are reclaiming, you know, we are regenerating the lost, the linkage of water linkages in the city. And we have few projects, young architects are working there to regenerate the ambience of the city, getting back the water bodies, getting back the greeneries, getting back the open spaces. So that has been started. So we have started reversing our situation from bad to good nowadays, and I am very much hopeful about that. When I gradually absorbed that I am not an artist only, I am an architect also, then I started looking around, what is architecture basically? And I started roaming around the world. I was looking the projects of other architects, and I realized that architecture is not just a personal expression of thing. It's rather expression of a society. It's a social phenomena rather than appearance of personal understanding. So when you talk about social aspects, then sociology comes, and then psychology of the people comes, and the relationship with the land and the architecture and the material, like water, just beautiful water, the trees and the building and the street and the piazzas and footpaths. So all basically together becomes architecture. It's all about the atmosphere, the surroundings, the context is all together architecture. Then I started thinking we have a responsibility, social responsibility, and then we need to understand what type of architecture we need to do on a particular place. So if it is Bangladesh, then we have a history, like Italy. We have thousands of years old history. So if I forget the history, then I'm disconnected, I'm rootless, I'll be nowhere simply. When I started my office in 1995, I don't know other countries, but in my country at the time, there was nothing such like green architecture, the parameter, how to do the green architecture, nothing was that time actually, it was absent. But if you look at my office name, Shatoto, and Architecture for Green Living, it hasn't come from today's typical green buildings idea. Rather, it came from my passion. As a painter, when I see my country, the vegetation grows beautifully. It's so obvious that when I started, that it was obvious for me that I'll be thinking of very much connected to my land. So green came out like that. It's not like that today's green architecture situation. But it has similarities, definitely. We work with the natural ventilation, we work with the flow of water, we work with the vegetation, planting, to reduce the consumption of power, the electricity, to reduce the carbon footprint. These are all happening even without ticking up the marks, ticking up the boxes that we need to achieve all these things to get the points for green architecture. We were doing for a long time these things. So there is no conflict between two things, but definitely I never started exactly the way green building is going on like today. This is how I think I can explain my understanding about green architecture. Definitely Mazhar Islam is the key figure, is the protagonist and a father figure for the architects of all architects of our country, because I think he is not only a visionary architect, he was an architect with nobility, with integrity. He started his practice as a modernist, but actually he was not a modernist. He was critically modernist basically. But when he found after a few works that to change the people, the society, architecture is not enough, and gradually shifted to politics. But Mazhar Islam, who never took any advantage from his profession, architecture, for politics or politics for architecture. That's why after doing some of the fantastic work, architectural work, he never got job, because he was very honest. He was not going to compromise for anything. The only vision was to do good to the society. The greatness of Mazhar Islam definitely influenced us a lot. Without Mazhar Islam, we cannot think of ourselves. And then Luai Khan came into scenario, and he did his masterpiece in Bangladesh, the Parliament building. That influenced us so much. His use of brick, use of concrete, use of water, all you see very contextual and simultaneously very prominent. It's just not, merging him into the context. Rather, is a complementary to the context and architecture. So this powerful architecture influences a lot, and these two people definitely is the master of in my life definitely. And of course, I would like to mention Glenn Markert, another person. I would like to mention Professor Samsul Wares, another wonderful person. So these are the people basically influenced me a lot to proceed with architecture. For Bangladesh, material selection is one big issue, because when we do select material, we need to think about the availability of the material, whether it's contextual or not, and then we have our very critical climate, and we have an earthquake zone, and we have a huge population and a small land. Concrete is very much used material in Bangladesh traditionally. If you see Louis I Khan's project, he selected concrete because it has the strength to take care of the earthquake problem. It can go up in a small land, it can go up. It has the ability to take care of the lateral load, because we have generally we have like 200 kilometer per hour lateral load, wind load. So which material has the ability to take care of those things. And then the brick. Brick is a very much local material. It's just from Bangladesh basically, historically, Mughal, pre-Mughal period. It's all about brick mostly. So these two material has lot of connection with the history, with the sociology, and people's affiliation, people's familiarity with the material. And think about climatology. We have a very high moisture, like 80–90% moisture, and temperature goes up sometimes like 35 to 40 degrees Celsius in the summer. It is best for us to use exposed concrete and exposed brick, which breathes basically, and keep building sustainable. For every architect, the spirit of the land where he or she belongs is very, very important. Particularly since I am from Bangladesh, Bangladesh is a land of dynamics basically. In monsoon, when it starts raining, almost 2/3 of the country's land goes underwater. The whole country is like a waterscape. Water is the major element of landscape. And same land, after 2 months, when monsoon goes off and leaves behind the alluvial soil, very fertile alluvial soil, and then immediately after just 1 or 2 more months, it becomes absolutely green, a patch green, and crops grown up and moving with the wind. This is such a beautiful thing. Rivers, and like a intricate pattern, it's moving, hundreds of rivers moving, and it's shifting also. Sometimes it's a pain for us, because it breaks the edges of the land, and people started losing their houses even. But the dynamics of the land is very much alive and dynamic. So from this country, when we do architecture, we just cannot ignore it simply. We want to understand the land. We want to understand the whole landscape of the country. So this is how I think I love to do architecture, and I think architecture needs to be done in the same fashion in any parts of the world. You talk about Madonna residence, which we did quite long back, like 2000. In a neighborhood where the typical thinking of the people was every house needs to have a high boundary wall, and you know, the boundary wall has an interesting meaning. The semiotics, the semiology is very interesting here. If you put a high boundary wall, and sometimes you see some barbed wire on the boundary wall, and sometimes written, "Be aware of dog." You know, this basically all to make other people outside that we don't trust you. It's a message like that, that we don't trust you, we don't respect you, don't come close to the house, it will scratch you by the bird wire, the dog will bite you. So this sort of funny and interesting negotiation and relationship going on between the passerby and the house owner, not at all good for the society. It will gradually make the society vulnerable and dispersed and is broken. So we just identified one element, the boundary wall, is symbolical, just remove it from the society. So we did that project with that intention. We removed the boundary wall. We placed low sitting benches, just low height brick walls, which is people can sit, people can see the garden. It is took over by the gardens, and the whole house becomes part of the city. So it's a dialogue between the city and the passerby. The house owner is like very friendly. You can sit there, you can see the beautiful garden over there, and we do respect you, we do trust you. So this is how we can make our society more strong, more connected, for a better living environment in the city. Why we do architecture? Why we do painting? Why we do we write poem? What the reason? To me is always the center is the human being. We do everything for the people. I quoted the example of Van Gogh, who wrote a letter, who wrote many letters to his brother Theo. In one letter he wrote that there is nothing more artistic than to love people. If you consider the context, a person who is almost deprived from the society, was not regarded by the society at the time, he was in pain, he killed himself in one stage. Even then, this person who was unable to sell his paintings, except one painting, this person, even all the pain having inside, he wrote, there is nothing more artistic than to love people, but who never got love from the people. So to me, this is amazing sentence. We are getting love from the people, maybe less or maybe more, but whether we are loving people. So every profession's ultimate goal is to serve the nation, and serve the nation means serve the people. To me, serving through architecture to the people is the ultimate goal. This is how I think that we need to do architecture for the people.